morning that began like any other turned tragic today when an employee opened fire on his supervisor and fellow coworkers.
Students, parents, teachers are asking why today after a bloody rampage plunged this campus into tragedy.
Details are just coming in, but we're being told that a heavily armed gunman opened fire this evening at the mall food court behind me. There's no official word on any casualties yet, but one eyewitness reported seeing at least 6 people shot.
Active shooter. A gunman or gunmen killing or attempting to kill people in a confined, populated area.
You gotta get some sleep. You're looking like a vampire.
You sleep.
You ain't got no babies at home keeping you up.
What the hell? Ah, Sim again.
We've tried. I'm sorry. We're gonna have to let you go.
Active shooter killings are a tragic, unpredictable reality, and one that's becoming more common.
Since 2006, the U.S. has averaged an active shooter event with 4 or more deaths every 2.9 months.
Even though the number of active shooter events has been increasing, your odds of being involved in one are still very slim. But just like fire drills and earthquake preparedness, making a plan in advance can make all the difference.
Yeah, but lizards live in tanks. I mean, it's probably fine.
If you do find yourself in the middle of a senseless attack, the why doesn't matter.
Hey. Hey, buddy.
Hang on, something's happening.
What matters is surviving.
On average, 20 mass shootings take place in the U.S. every year.
Killers usually choose their victims at random. They look for easy targets. So the harder you are to see or to hit, the safer you are. When an attack starts, if you can find a way out of the location, do so.
Get out.
If you stay calm and think clearly, even in the middle of a life and death event, you improve your chances of making it out. Visualize your movements in advance.
What are we gonna do?
Look at me, look at me. I can get us out. Stay behind me. Stay down.
Use cover, something that will stop a bullet, and concealment, something that at least keeps you out of sight.
Attention South LA units, code 3 response needed regarding a 245 DSV 417. This will be at the Town Center shopping mall. Suspects wearing a face mask, possible body armor.
Use any available means to get out, including emergency exits or windows. Most restaurants and retail locations will also have exits in the back, through kitchens or stock rooms. Even in the best cases, police are minutes, not seconds away. You must take action to protect yourself.
Okay, everybody stay calm. It's probably just a drill.
No, go back, go back.
Oh my God, come here.
If you can help others without putting yourself in unnecessary danger,
It's gonna be okay.
do
It's
so.
gonna be okay. What's your name?
Lori.
Lori? It's gonna be okay.
If you can't move safely to an exit, get to a room or a confined area you can lock down. Then secure the location.
Secure your location.
Oh my God.
There's somebody shooting.
Everybody stay calm. Remember how we train. Everybody get in this corner, away from the windows. Get the emergency bag from my desk. Help her.
Drywall won't stop a bullet, but there are steps to take to stay safe. Lock or barricade the doors, turn off the lights, move away from any windows, and silence your cell phone.
The other door doesn't lock, move desks, or anything, just block it.
A modern emergency bag can include a first aid kit, gloves, emergency plans for the building, and casualty cards to alert first responders to any wounded victims.
Most active shooter situations are over in 10 to 15 minutes.
Attention Lakeway units, code 3 is needed. Red 245 GSV 417. It's going to be at Alexandria College. Multiple victims down.
Law enforcement's first responsibility when entering an active shooter situation is to stop the suspect, not to render aid to the victims. Medical teams will enter the scene as soon as the suspect is no longer a threat or is confirmed in another location. Silence any cell phones and remain quiet. Do not alert the shooter to your presence.
Sheriff's Department, is there anyone inside?
Red card.
Just hang tight. We'll be back to get you.
Defend yourself.
If you cannot escape the location and you can't shelter in place, you may have to defend yourself as a last resort. Almost anything can be turned into an improvised weapon. Look for something that can disrupt the shooter's ability to see, breathe, or control their weapon. When law enforcement arrives, they are going to be in a heightened state of readiness and awareness, looking for any aggressive movements. So keep your hands visible and follow any commands you are given.
He's a shooter.
What happened? What happened?
Oh, it's just a shooter. I just saw one shooter.
Especially in developing situations, engaging law enforcement, running toward them, reaching for them, even to thank them, could put people at risk.
Surviving an active shooter. For more information,
Thank you. Seriously.
visit activeshooter.lasd.org.
This program is broken down into 3 major categories. We're going to talk a little bit about active attack events, and we will explain why we call them active attack events, not active shooter events. We're going to talk about stress response, how the body and the brain responds to stress. And I'm not talking about the kind of stress you have when your boss says, hey, go over here and do this or do that, or you were late this morning, come in here and sign a piece of paper. That's not the kind of stress I'm talking about. I'm talking about the kind of stress that you have when you realize you're in a life or death situation. The kind of stress that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up because you realize that at this particular moment you could be seriously hurt or you could die. Okay, that's the kind of stress I'm talking about. And then we're going to talk about to avoid, deny, and defend, the 3 things that you can do to survive an attack. All right, so let's get into this a little bit and talk about active attack events. What is an active attack event? Anybody care to give me a definition? Exactly. Attempted mass murder. Just boil it down to what it is. Okay, it's attempted mass murder. And if we want to get specific, the FBI has a definition. One or more people actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a confined or populated area. Let's talk about the attackers, and this is from 20 years of statistics and looking back at active attack events. What we have discovered is that there is no specific profile of an active attacker. They've been ranged in age from 13 to 80. They've been male, they've been female, they've been black, they've been white, they've been other races. So there is no specific profile. Most of them have an avenger mindset. What we mean by avenger mindset is they feel like they've been wronged by the organization. They feel like they've been served an injustice and they're trying to get back. They're trying to get revenge for something that they perceive is a wrong. And unfortunately, we're in the public sector. All right, we work for the public, and we have to have contact with the public. We have to be accessible to the public. So that puts us at a little bit of a risk. Some of them broadcast it, and what we mean by broadcast is they may talk about it. Maybe not directly, but they may talk about it indirectly. Some of these attackers have posted videos on YouTube. They've posted things on social media. They may have had a blog or something where they continually talk about some injustice and how they're going to get back at the organization or maybe even a specific person. Most of them have a history of violence. They've either been raised in a family where violence was prevalent, maybe domestic violence. They may have been exposed to it as a child. They may have substance abuse problems. Many times we see that there's not only substance abuse, there's alcohol abuse, both in a lot of these attackers. Mental illness. How many active attack events have happened in the last 20 years where mental illness was not a factor? 0. You're exactly right. Mental illness is a factor in 100% of them. And most of them have a history of suicidality. What we mean is they've talked about it or they've thought about it at some point. They may have even attempted it. And when they plan this attack, they have no rational plan of escape. Escape is not part of that plan. So all they plan to do is to go in and attack and kill as many people as they can, and when confronted by a citizen or law enforcement, they will kill themselves. Many of them have stalking, harassing, or threatening behavior. They may have stalked an ex-spouse or ex-girlfriend or boyfriend. They have probably no support system with their family, or they may come from a broken home. They may be isolated or unstable. How many of you come to work every day and you know exactly the personality type and you know how your coworkers are going to interact with you? In other words, every day that I come into work and I run into Fire Marshal Pender back there, there's a little bit of a smart aleck exchange of some sort. He wants to hug me. I don't know why that is. But if he walked by me and didn't say anything and he was withdrawn and he didn't cut up and he didn't make jokes, it would be noticed by coworkers and probably everybody in the building. Certainly by me. I would realize that something was probably wrong, and if that behavior persisted, that's a clue to me that there's something going on with him. Now, he may not be an active attacker, but those are the kind of clues that the active attackers present and that are picked up on by family members and friends and coworkers. 242 actual events. Now, one thing you need to know is that these are active attack events. We're not talking about gang shootings. We're talking about an armed robbery where somebody goes in to commit an armed robbery and they shoot a couple of people. Those have been ruled out. Okay? These are active attack events. Specifically where somebody has gone into an area, a building or a place, and tried to kill as many people as they possibly can. And that was their motive for the attack. Now, where do you think most of these are occurring? Going back to your question. How many of you think schools? Churches? Places of work or business? You're exactly right. About 54% of these occur in places of commerce or business. It could be retail, could be a public place like where we work, could be in a warehouse setting or manufacturing facility, but places of business or commerce is where most of these occur. Educational institutions are a much smaller percentage. Now, we hear about those probably more often and see them in the news media. Why? Because of kids, right? It's newsworthy, and it pulls at our heartstrings because it involves our children. So that's what we hear about in school shootings. Some of them are in outdoor venues. We're going to look at one specifically, and then others would be your religious organizations or institutions. Most of these attackers have a direct connection to where they attack. In other words, they were a current employee, former employee, current student, former student, customer. They have a direct relationship to where they're attacking. All right, let's look at some specific active attack events that have occurred. How many of you have heard of this one here? This happened at the University of California in Santa Barbara back in 2014. The perpetrator here stabbed and killed 3 people at his residence. He then took a handgun and got in his car, drove through campus, shot some people, and ran out of bullets. Then he ran over some more people in his car. So you have somebody that attacked with a knife, a gun, and a vehicle. Hence the term active attack events. Orlando, Florida, the Pulse nightclub. 49 people were killed, numerous others were injured. The perpetrator was a patron of this establishment. Been there many times. Probably the largest one since 9/11. 59 people killed, hundreds more injured. Some interesting facts about this particular event is that it was outdoor. It was in a fairly large area, but people were confined into that space. They were trying to control, obviously, because it was a paid event, they're trying to control people from getting in free, and as a result of that, it made it hard for people to get out as well. So you have a lot of chaos here. Some of the people who died at this event were actually found a mile away from the event. Caused a lot of chaos in that city for quite some time. They got reports that there were shootings all over town. Every casino within a couple of miles of here was reported to have a shooting. In fact, it was at one location. But because of the chaos, it was very hard to deal with for several hours. The partition that divides this room right here, is that cover or is that concealment? Concealment. That is concealment. You can shoot right through it. You can shoot right through it. What about a brick wall? Cover. With the covers. Yeah, unless they're shooting a very large weapon, then it would be covered. New York City in 2017, perpetrator rented a truck from Home Depot, got on the bike path, ran over and killed 8 people. Used a vehicle, no knife, no gun, just a vehicle. Sutherland Springs, Texas, 26 people killed, 20 more wounded. The gunman here was actually stopped by an alert citizen who lived a couple blocks away. His daughter, the guy's name that stopped this was Stephen Wilford. Mr. Wilford was home that morning, and his daughter came to him and said, Dad, I think I hear gunshots coming from the church. He said, oh no, you didn't do that. She said, no, yeah, I did. I think it's gunshots. You need to come here. So he goes to another part of the house with the window up. Sure enough, he hears gunshots. He goes, yep, those are gunshots. He retrieves a rifle from his gun safe. He goes outside toward the church. Ultimately, he confronts the gunman, who he sees exiting the church wearing tactical equipment, carrying a rifle. They exchange gunfire. It goes mobile. Suspect gets into a car and drives off. Mr. Wilford and somebody who he didn't even know pulled up and saw what was going on, told Mr. Wilford to get in, we're going after him. So there was a running gun battle that went on for several miles. Ultimately, that guy was shot by Mr. Wilford and ran off the road and crashed his vehicle. And fortunately, he stopped the violence at that church that day. Probably saved a lot of lives. Here's one that hits a little close to home. Waffle House shooting here in Nashville. We all remember that one a little too well. How easy would it be for me to fire a gun down this hallway and hit somebody? I wouldn't even have to aim, would I? The point of this class is for us to teach you that that hallway needs to be empty. Okay? We want to eliminate targets. We want the hallway to be empty. Basically, the number of deaths depend on two things. How quickly the police arrive and target availability. All right, we want you to not be a target. We're going to show you 3 things you can do to not be a target. On average, nationwide, this is a nationwide statistic, not a local statistic. Nationwide, law enforcement responds to these incidents in about 3 minutes. Okay, that's really, really quick. The bad news is you have to own those 3 minutes. You got to own them. You got to do something. All right, back in 2008, there was a lady named Amanda Ripley. Miss Ripley started conducting research on why people die and why people survive in disasters. And basically what she determined from her research is 3 things. Everybody goes through denial, deliberation, and decisive moment. Those that survive get through the denial and the deliberation very quickly. They get through denial and deliberation and get the decisive moment very, very quickly. Those that die typically get stuck up here somewhere. All right. How many of you, before I play, this is going to be a video, how many of you have ever gone to a fancy dinner party and you go in to sit down and there's like 2 or 3 plates and bowls and there's like half a dozen forks and knives and all this silverware, and you're like, which one of these am I supposed to use? So what do? You look around to see what everybody else is doing, right? Watch this. All right, why do I show you this video? Well, I show you this video to show you that as soon as one person did something, as soon as one person acted, they got through the denial that something bad was happening, they got through that deliberation phase, and they did something. As soon as one person did something, what happened? All of a sudden you had all these other people doing something. When something bad happens, we want you to get through denial and deliberation and do something. Okay? If you do something, others will do something. That's what will save your life. That's why we show you the video. All right. We're going to talk about the human brain and we're going to talk about the lizard brain. Why would we talk about the lizard brain? John?
I'm not really sure.
Speechless. It's a first. You're exactly right. Exactly. Hit the nail on the head. The human brain is a thinking brain. We like to process information. We like to weigh our options. We like to think about consequences. Well, if I do this, this might happen. If I do this, that might happen. We think things through. The lizard doesn't. It just reacts. It sees food, it goes after it. It senses fear, it runs. We have to decide. We take in information, and depending on our stress level, we're going to do one of these things here. So we weigh that information and then make that decision. The lizard doesn't do that. It doesn't consider consequences. It just reacts. All right, most of us in this room right now are sitting here at about 60 beats per minute. Unless you got told to come down here to this training at the last minute and you're kind of hacked off about it. So then you might be over here at about 90 beats per minute because you just aggravated a little bit, right? This is what the body does and how the body responds to stress. Like I told you a few minutes ago, I'm not talking about the kind of stress from having to come to this. I'm talking about the kind of stress that's life or death stress. Okay? That's the kind of stress that I'm talking about. All right, you sense something, you're sitting at your desk and you hear a gunshot. Instantly you go from this to somewhere up in here. You're like, what was that? Then you realize that's bad, that's a gunshot, and it's inside this building. I've got to do something. Now you're up in this area right here. This is good. 120 beats per minute is good. Why? You bleed less. You can still think and make decisions. You are stronger. You are faster. You can still process information and make decisions. Fine motor skills start to deteriorate when you get past this up toward the 150 beats per minute. Think of it this way. Those of you that work out, think of a very strenuous workout where your heart rate gets really high and you are really trying to get some oxygen in. Immediately stop your workout and try to send a text message. It becomes very difficult when your heart rate is that high. You start to lose fine motor skills. You still have some gross motor skills, but your fine motor skills start to deteriorate. When you get into the 150 beats per minute, the gray area, now it's when you lose cognitive ability. You can't process information. Fine motor skills are gone. You know that something bad has happened. You don't know what to do. You might do something if somebody else gets you to do it, if somebody else motivates you. In other words, if there's gunfire that erupts in this building and you hit the 150 beats per minute and you can't do anything, but if somebody says, hey, you need to come with me, let's get the heck out of here, you would still be able to do function, but you can't process that information. 175 beats per minute, the black zone. This is the shutdown zone. This is where you can't process information. We have voiding of the bowels and the bladder, and you shut down completely. You will not function when you get to that point right there. That's what stress does to the body. I'll give you an example of that. How many of you in here have kids? Small children. How many times have you taken your child and put them into a car seat? Give me a number. 400? 1,000? Can you do it blindfolded? What about a stroller where they got to be all buckled in and everything? You can do it blindfolded. You know exactly what the buckles feel like, exactly where they're supposed to go, exactly how to release them. Have you ever done that under extreme stress? Fire guys. Here's what I want you to focus on in this video. Now, there's no sound in this video. This is a retail store where somebody came in and started shooting people. This is a video of footage from an actual event. You're going to see people in a second. It's going to be chaos on the screen. What I want you to look for is right here in this aisleway, there will be a lady that appears pushing a stroller. I want you to focus on the lady with the stroller. Now keep in mind, shots have been fired. She knows something bad has happened. So focus on this lady. Well, she got the mission accomplished. She got the baby out of the stroller. Did she have some difficulty doing that? My guess is she's never practiced that under extreme stress. I wouldn't recommend it. But my point is, this is how the body responds under extreme stress. Something that you have done 1,000 times, but you've never done it under stress, may become extremely difficult. I would say her heart rate went absolutely through the roof right there. That poor child has probably got 2 dislocated arms and shoulders, but at least he's not going to be shot, right? All right, fire department, I know you guys are well aware of this. You probably know a lot more about it than I do. I found out a few tidbits of information about this fire from previous classes, but this is the Station nightclub. It's in Rhode Island. A real popular nightclub up there. This has been several years ago. The band Great White was playing there on this particular night, and they had some pyrotechnics on the stage. Okay? Why do we show you this? Well, we show you this to show you how, again, how people respond under stress and then I'm going to show you some things you can do to help combat that stress. I want you to focus on this diagram here. You got 4 main exits from this building. Most people came in this venue through this front entrance hall. I will tell you that what you're about to see is a little bit graphic and a little bit disturbing, just so that you're warned. Pretty disturbing. If you'll recall in the video there that initially there was no panic. People thought, well, this is just part of it. Even though you can see that the ceiling is burning, they're in denial. Oh, it's really supposed to happen. You know, it's just part of the show. So they're in denial that something bad is actually happening. Once they realize, oh gosh, this place is on fire, I have to get out, their human brain goes away and their lizard brain kicks in, and they go right back to the only thing they knew, which was what? The same entrance that they came in. That's the only way they knew to get out, okay? Because they didn't think about it ahead of time. Pretty tragic event, really. 31 people died trying to go back out that same entrance that they came in. I learned from some of you guys from the fire department that there were actually some security guards at that back exit that were trying to prevent people from going out that way because the band was back there. They too were in denial that something bad was happening and that the security of the band was secondary to everything else at the moment. But that probably contributed a little bit to the disaster. But the main thing I want you to get out of this is, in any disaster, you got to know other options. And how do you know what those other options are unless you process that ahead of time? How many of you go into a restaurant to have dinner and you never, ever, ever think about another way to get out of that restaurant other than the entrance that you came in? Everybody's guilty of that. Sure we are. We're all guilty of that. What I want you to start doing is, when you go into a building or you go into a restaurant, think to yourself, okay, this is the main entrance. This is where I came in. Something bad happens, I can go that way or I can go that way. If this exit is blocked, know another way to get out. It might not be a fire, or it could be a fire, or it might be some sort of a shooting, or it could be some other active attack event. Know your exits. Identify them. Say to yourself, I can exit there, I can exit there. At least you've primed your brain for when something bad happens. Some things that you can do. Take a deep breath. Once you realize something bad is happening, I have to do something. Take a deep breath. Okay? Calm yourself. Shift your emotion. Become very angry. Don't become scared. Use that fear to motivate yourself. How dare that person come in here and attack me and my coworkers and my friends? Become very angry. Use that anger to motivate yourself. And stay fit. Exercise, as we know, helps the body cope with stress. Script and practice. All right. How many of you come to work every day and you park in the same place and you walk in the same door? You take the same route to your desk or to your locker every day. How many of us are guilty of that? Sure, we're all guilty of that. We're a little bit like livestock following that trail in the pasture, right? Uh-oh. What happens when you run into that new gate? Darn. Confused then, right? We don't want that new gate that you run into to be something life-threatening, okay? So we want you to script it. Do this for me. Next time you go to work, go into the building a different way. Park in a different location. I know that's really hard for some of you. Are a little OCD, I get it. And if somebody's in your parking space, you absolutely go ballistic, right? You want to hunt them down, and you want to find out, why in the heck did they park in my space? Don't worry about that. I want you to practice discovering new ways to get into and out of the building where you work. Think about it on a regular basis. When you leave work, go out a different way. Think to yourself while you're at work, if something bad happens here, I can go there. If something bad happens here, I can go there. Think about that. Script that in your head. One thing we do with police officers, our field training officers, when they're training a rookie officer, many times they'll pull up to, whether it's a residence or a convenience store or a business, they will put some stress on that rookie, and they'll go, all right, shots are fired from that window into this vehicle. Where are you going? Where's your closest point of cover, and how are you going to get to it? We call those what-if scenarios. And those little short what-if scenarios that get that officer to thinking and scripting in their head, before long, they're doing it on their own. Before long, I know I did. Every time after my FTO did that with me a bunch, I'd pull up to a store or to a business or to any call, and I'd be thinking, I'd be playing those what-if scenarios. Okay, something bad happens. If somebody shoots at me from there, I'm going there. There's my cover. I'm going to go there. And if that gets blocked, I'm going to go there. Here's plan A, here's plan B, here's plan C. Thinking about that, and I can do it just like that. But research has shown that people who do that are more likely to survive deadly encounters. You can do it yourself just by practicing a different way to come into work and a different way to leave work. And not just work, any other venue that you go into. Maybe a ballpark. But think about that. A confined space with fences. Think about that. How are you going to get into and out of it should something bad happen? Have a plan. Have a plan A, have a plan B, have a plan C. It doesn't take but just a few seconds, and you can do it without anybody knowing that you're doing it. How many of you have ever heard of Rick Rescorla? Okay, one person. Not many people typically know who he is. Rick Rescorla was a very decorated Vietnam veteran. And when he got out of the military, ultimately he got hired with Morgan Stanley Dean Witter and rose to the level of a VP of security for Dean Witter. Anyway, they occupied the South Tower. They had about 3,000 employees in that South Tower. Rick Rescorla was convinced that at some point those towers would be attacked by terrorists. He was convinced of it. And this was before 9/11. All right? He was convinced that those towers were prime targets for terrorist attack. So, knowing that and believing that, I mean, he believed it, he devised evacuation plans for all the Morgan Stanley Dean Witter employees, and he made them practice that. And his bosses above him said, "You got to stop, Rick. It's taken away from their work." He's like, "No, we got to do it, we got to do it, we got to do it." So he made them practice evacuating that building. He could even be seen from time to time standing at stairwells or exits with a bullhorn yelling at people, "You got to move faster, you got to move faster, you got to get out." Point is, he had a plan, and he practiced his plan. As a result, when 9/11 hit, Rick Rescorla is credited with saving approximately 2,700 people that he got out of that South Tower. He ultimately lost his life because after he got that first wave of people out, he went back in to make sure he hadn't left anybody. And when he did, he died. He had a plan, and he practiced his plan. Many of you have heard, they actually made a movie about this, the terror attack on a train in France. It was ultimately stopped by 3 Americans. One of them was in the Army, one was Air Force, and one was not in the military, but they were on vacation and they were on this train. Terrorist attacked, shot some people. As soon as he went to reload his rifle, they charged him and attacked him. And stopped him from killing who knows how many more people. Bottom line is, they realized something bad was happening. They got through denial. They said, "We got to do something." They said, "Okay, When he went to reload, they looked at each other and said, "We got to go." And they did. All right. What can you do? How many of you have ever heard gunshots in a building? Other than a firing range? We actually came down here and presented this program to members or employees of the library about a year ago, or maybe a little over a year ago. One thing they asked us to do, and we didn't do it while the library was open, so don't make everybody panic, but they were actually closed for something that day, but we actually brought a blank gun down here and fired some blanks in the building to see, so that they could hear what gunfire sounds like in the building. And I know that some of those employees, were you all here for that? Did you hear the gunshots? You did? I did. You didn't? Yeah, there was people that heard them and people that didn't hear them. Now, you may find it hard to believe that an actual gun can go off in this building and there's people in the building that didn't hear it. But yeah, it's a big building, and depending on where that takes place, that very well could happen. Bottom line is, if you hear it, you need to get through the denial, because it's not what? It's not fireworks. The brain likes to package things into comfortable situations that it's familiar with. The brain is familiar with fireworks, just not inside a building, right? So when you hear a loud bang inside of a building, your brain instantly, oh, that's just fireworks, right? You got to get through that denial very quickly. What you're about to see here is, you're going to hear from a young lady named Christina Anderson. Christina Anderson was in room 211 at Virginia Tech in Norris Hall when that attack took place. And she's going to talk to you about why it's not a good idea to play dead in open sight. Not a good idea, not a very good survival strategy.
We heard the first shots around 9:40 a.m. I was sitting on the wall of the classroom, so in the hallway, and I could hear the shots getting closer and closer very quickly. And there was only a few seconds between the first time we heard them and when we actually walked in. To me, it sounded like an axe being taken to a piece of wood. And our teacher, she opened the door, and she peered outside, and she immediately shut the door, and she said, "Call 911." And right then, we walked in just seconds after. There's absolutely no time to think or to duck or to take cover. People just kind of fell to the floor. And he immediately walked in shooting, and he went to the other side of the classroom, and he started going down the rows. He went down each row very quickly, very purposefully. And I remember thinking, your turn is coming, you're going to get shot. I mean, I didn't realize I was an active shooter, but I knew something bad was happening. He came back to our classroom 3 times, and on the 3rd time, he killed himself in the front of the class. In between each time he was there, you could just hear people crying and coughing, and the cell phone started ringing. When he was in our class, I remember trying not to breathe very much, so he couldn't tell I was alive. Because as my stomach was hitting the chair, I was thinking, he can see me breathing, he can see me alive, and that was very scary. I'll never forget when the SWAT team first broke in at around 9:51. The officer in the front of the classroom said, "We have a lot of blacks in here." And at the time, I couldn't comprehend what he was talking about, but he meant triage codes. And I remember looking into the girl to my right and realizing, what black meant. He looked over me and he said, first he said yellow, and then he changed it immediately. He said red, and that's when I first started panicking. I still couldn't speak. I was shot 3 times, lying on my back, and I was thinking, what do you see? What can you see on me that I can, that you would change me from yellow to red? He killed 12 people in my classroom, including my teacher.
Fire department guys, triage codes. What does black mean in triage? Dead. It means obviously dead, right? Right after Virginia Tech, this attack happened, I called up there to the Virginia Tech Police Department, and I ended up talking to a lieutenant who was actually one of the first people to make entry into Norris Hall. And I told him, I said, anything you can tell me that would help us train for this, anything that you can tell me that we can use in our training. And he said, well, there was two things that struck him as just tragic. Number one is when they first made entry into Norris Hall, he said it was deathly quiet. He said you could hear a pin drop on the third floor. And as soon as they made entry, they heard one gunshot, which they ultimately determined was the attacker killing himself. The second thing he told me, and this is even more disturbing, the second thing he told me was that when they made entry into room 211, they found students, and these are college students, right? They found students, some of them dead, still sitting in their chairs at their desk. Now, if you paid attention to what she said the attacker walked up and down the rows very purposefully. What's disturbing about that? They just sat there. They didn't do anything. Why do you think that is? Part of it's denial. Part of it is society. We have taught our kids what in school? You don't fight. You don't fight. It's bad. No violence. Don't fight. What we've failed to teach them is that it's okay to defend yourself in something like this. We've not talked about it with them. We've not had them practice it. They just sat there and waited to die. And I think that's very tragic. Extremely tragic. Hiding and hoping is not a good survival strategy. It's not good survival strategy for an active attack event. It's not a good survival strategy for your 401k either. Avoid, deny, and defend. Let's talk about avoiding for a minute. How many of you have ever heard of the Panama City School Board event? This actually happened. This is actual footage from this meeting. This is a school board meeting in Panama City, Florida, several years ago. And I want you to watch. I'm not going to show you the whole video because it's pretty lengthy. I'll tell you the outcome of it though. Watch people's reaction to this. Somebody in the meeting actually stands up and they've got a gun. Watch what people do. He's waving a gun around. All right, I'm not going to play the rest of that. It went on. It goes on for several minutes. Ultimately, law enforcement responds, and they end up shooting and killing this guy right in front of the other people that are in the room there. Did you see how people reacted to that? A lot of people were in complete denial that something bad was happening. They just kind of sit there. They're like, oh, that's really not a gun. It's really not a gun. It's really not a gun. It's really not bad. It's really not bad. They're in denial. They can't get past that denial and deliberation to get to decisive moment. There's a couple of people that, they got up and left everything. We got out. Okay, that's what we would want you to do in a situation like that. Leave all that stuff. You can get that later. Get out. Leave immediately. Know your exits. We talked about that. Practice knowing your exits. Call 911. Why is it in that order? That's the order we want you to do things in. I want you to get out first and get safe. Get somewhere where you've got cover. Get somewhere a long ways away so that you're safe. And then call 911. We want you to call 911 because we want the information. Okay? You've got valuable information that we need. We want you to call, but not until you're safe. Guy goes in with a gun. And that guy sets a new land speed record. Guy goes in with a gun. Smart people say, gun, I'm leaving. And they go quickly. Avoid the danger. That's what we want you to do. Avoid it. Don't stop to gather your belongings. Don't stop to pick this up. Don't stop to send an email to somebody. Just get out. This is footage, a picture. I don't have the video, but this is footage from, or a picture from an active attack event in a store. And this is a store employee that had gone, they left a trail of, hey, follow me, I'm back here. They go into this stock room back here, and they hide. Now, I have seen the video to this, and what's disturbing about this, here again is stress response on the brain. See that door right there? They push above the push bar, and they push below the push bar. They never pushed the push bar. Could have gone right out. In addition to that, there's a roof hatch right there. Probably at about 170 beats per minute. Brain shut down, cognitive ability shut down, couldn't function, so they just freeze. We've talked about this. Consider secondary exits. Consider all your exits. All right, you can't get out. Your exits are blocked. The attacker is going to come into where you are. What should you do? If this room did not have all that glass and it was just a block wall right there, and we knew that there was shooting out there, we couldn't go out that way, what should we do? Close the door, lock the door if we can, or secure the door. Barricade the door. How quickly could this group of people barricade that door? I'm going to say 10 to 15 seconds. You could do it pretty darn quick. Something else to think about. How can you secure that door? Yeah. These tension bars at the top, if you wear a belt, take your belt off, wrap it around that tension bar, pull it tight. You can prevent that door from opening by doing that. Fire department. There's a fire department up in the Midwest that supplied an old piece of fire hose to an elementary school to do that. What they did is they took that hose and they cut it in short sections. Slide that piece of fire hose on there because you can't tear a fire hose, right? And it prevents the doors from being opened. Yes, sir. We're getting there. You know exactly where I'm going. We're getting there. We want you, if you can, first we want you to lock the door, barricade the door, secure the door to prevent them from coming in. In active attack events, attackers have not spent much time trying to gain access to locked or secured doors. In several events, there is information where they tried to open the door, they may have pushed on the door, but then they left. Why? Why do they not spend much time trying to gain access? Other targets. They're there to kill as many people as they can, right? So if, rather than spending time trying to go through a door, they're going to where there's other targets. So they're not going to spend much time doing that. So we want you to lock the door, secure the door, barricade it, and turn out the lights and get away from the door. The heavier the better. There's plenty of stuff in here to barricade that door. If you put all these chairs up against that door, even if they open the door, it'd be very difficult for them to get in here very quickly. Let's say that these doors and this roof hatch were locked and this person had to do something to deny entry to the attacker. Do you see anything in there they can use? I see a whole bunch of stuff there, right? I mean, you got racks, you got stuff stacked up, you got stuff everywhere that can barricade that door. Simple door stops that you can buy off of Amazon or at the Dollar General store or Walmart work very well. Tension sleeves, there's actually commercial devices on the market that are made just to stop those tension sleeves. Belts work very well. What about outward opening doors? We talked about the tension sleeves. Say you got a doorknob, tie off a doorknob and pull it tight. You could even tie it to a table. What have we got in this room if you didn't have a belt on it you could use to do that? Extension cords. You're exactly right. What else have we got in here that might work well? Clothing that you're wearing. Pull your shirt off and tie it up. Everybody's forgetting one major thing that's in this room. You're looking right at it. What about the screen? You got to become creative and start thinking about things that you can use to barricade and deny entry. Okay, use what is at your disposal. Use everything in there that's at your disposal. I attend all of the Williamson County school safety meetings, and I can tell you that they have looked at so many options to secure doors for classrooms. They have looked at tons and tons of options out there. There's a ton of stuff on the market that will work. All right, we're going to talk about defending ourselves a little bit. Let's say you can't get out, your exits are blocked. You just can't get out. You can't deny entry. Maybe it's a completely empty room and there's absolutely nothing in here. The attacker's too close, so you're going to have to defend yourself. Let's say that they're going to come through this door right here. Where should I be? Over here? Over here? Where do I need to be if I know they're coming through that door? I want to be right here. Why? I need to be able to lay hands on. If you're going to defend yourself, you're going to have to be able to lay hands on. Remember the Waffle House shooting in Nashville? What did he do? He grabbed the gun. Okay, he grabbed the gun. He charged the guy, knocked him down, grabbed the gun. Okay? You can't do that if you're not arm's length from somebody. You have to be right up on them to defend yourself. What else can you use as a weapon? Think now. Fire extinguisher. Oh man. Fire guys, thank you so much. That's a great weapon. That's a really good weapon. You got two weapons in one. Two weapons in one right there. You got the powdery stuff on the inside. Works great on people and dogs. And it's also a blunt force instrument, right? So you can spray them in the face and then hit them with it, right? So you got weapons at your disposal, and that's what I want you to get your wheels to turning about. What about something that half of you have in your hand right now? You know, we caution our police officers to keep at least arm's distance away from people when dealing with them, because somebody grab your ink pen and jab you right in the eyeball with it. They can kill you with it, stab you in the throat with it. A very, very, very readily available weapon and effective. I want you to think that way in these kind of circumstances. Shift your emotions, get angry. I mean, just get plumb mad that somebody is attacking you. Yes, sir. Keys, car keys, great. Car keys to the eyes, to the face, to the throat. They work great. Remember, there's no rules here. This is life or death. All rules are off. Okay? All right, you're going to see there's no sound on this. If you got to defend yourself, use what's available. And don't hide and play dead in plain sight. It's not an effective strategy. What do you think the shooter would do if he walked down through there and saw that person laying there? You think he's going to know that he hadn't shot that person yet? I'd say there's a pretty good chance. Not an effective strategy. Anybody ever heard of Lieutenant Brian Murphy? Lieutenant Brian Murphy worked for the Oak Creek, Wisconsin Police Department. And one Sunday morning he got dispatched to the report of a man with a gun at the local Sikh temple, which is a very large religious church there. And he responded and encountered the shooter in the parking lot not long after he pulled in. There was a running gun battle that ensued that lasted for quite some time. Lieutenant Murphy was ultimately shot 15 times. His vest, his body armor, stopped 3 of those. 12 of them entered his body. 3 of them are still in his body. Why didn't he die? Mindset. He had the will to survive. He said, I'm not dying. He can shoot me again, but I ain't dying. I'm not going to die. This is not where I'm supposed to die. I'm not dying here. His brain and his mind was the fight. I've got to fight, and I'm going to fight, and I'm not going to die. That's the kind of mindset we want you to have if you have to defend yourself. That's what you got to be thinking. I'm not going out this way. I want you to always be aware of your surroundings. Avoid the attack if you can. At all costs, avoid it if you can. Deny entry if you have to. Do not let them come into where you are. Barricade the door, lock the door, turn out the lights. And if you have to defend yourself, all rules are off. Use everything at your disposal. All right. Why is hiding in plain sight a bad idea? Well, you heard from Christina Anderson a minute ago from Virginia Tech. We're going to take a quick look at why that doesn't work and what is an effective strategy and why these strategies that we just talked about are good. That attack at Virginia Tech happened in Norris Hall, happened on the second floor, and here's a layout of what that second floor looked like. What do you notice about room 205? You know what the X means? Denied access to that room. The students in room 205 heard gunfire. When they heard gunfire, one of the alert students immediately jumped up and said, "That's gunfire. Help me, quick, we're going to barricade the door." And they barricaded the door. They turned tables up, they piled everything they could in front of that door, and then they laid on their backs on the floor with their feet against the tables to keep the attacker from opening the door and pushing his way in. He tried several times to open the door, it didn't work. He fired a couple of shots through the door, bullets whizzed right over their head and out the window. He didn't get in. How many people died in room 205? 0. Similar attempt, not as well thought out, occurred in room 204. The professor and one student tried to hold the door shut with their bodies. Ultimately, they were shot. The other students broke windows out and jumped from the second floor down to the first floor and escaped. So you have a lot of people that got out alive. This tells you how many were killed and wounded in each of those rooms. All right, something bad happens. You know that the police are coming. You know we're on our way, right? You got to remember, you just had the adrenaline dump. You've encountered a life or death situation, so the hair on the back of your neck's standing up. You're trying to get out. We're getting there knowing that we got to go in. So we're going to be amped up. Okay? We're going to have stress on us as well. You may have a gun pointed at you and told to show your hands. It's okay. Show your hands. You may be told to get down on the ground. Put your hands out beside you. It's okay. We'll sort it out. If you're not the shooter, we're going to realize that pretty darn quick. Okay? Do what you were told to do. Do not move. Show us the palms of your hands. We don't want you doing this. In a flash of a second, a phone can look like a weapon. Remember, weapons come in small sizes, right? Just do what you're told to do. Everything will be okay. Here's our priority. When we arrive, if you have been injured and you are screaming for help from us, I'm sorry. We are not going to stop to help you at that moment. Our priority is to stop the violence and stop the attack. We're not going to stop and help you right then and there. We're going to get you some help, and we're going to get it pretty quick. But at that moment, until we have stopped the attacker, we're not going to stop to help you. We're going to step over you, and we're going to keep going to the attacker. That is our priority. As soon as we know that the attacker is no longer attacking people, then we're going to get you help. And we're going to get it as quickly as we can. This is a pretty good video. Listen closely to the SRO. This was an actual school shooting where the SRO is trying to evacuate students. Listen to what he's doing. All right, I think he did a pretty good job. He was giving them good, clear commands. He was calm. He was telling them exactly what to do. He said, show me your hands. Just keep your hands up. Everything's going to be fine. I'll take a bullet before you do. I think he did a pretty good job in a stressful situation trying to get those people out of there. All right, something else that you can do. How many of you are EMTs in here other than fire? Anybody? Anybody have any advanced medical training? Any first aid training? Any CPR training? All right. What I recommend that you do is always attend that CPR training when you get the opportunity. Fire department can teach that at any time. They've got a bazillion people in that department that are more than happy to put on a CPR class. Okay, McCutcheon. Another program, we were going to try to offer it in conjunction with this training, but we realized we weren't going to have enough time to do that. But a program called Stop the Bleed, and Fire is going to offer that as a course that anybody in the city can take. It's a simple course. It's about an hour long or so. It's simply about how to stop somebody from bleeding, how to apply a tourniquet, how to apply a bandage. Good training for any time, not just for work or for an active attack event, but you're at work, somebody falls off a ladder, hurts themselves. I mean, very good training that we recommend that you get. If you don't want to get it through the fire department, go to the Homeland Security webpage and you can find out where a course is going to be offered near you. If you'll notice, I never ever once said the name of any of the attackers from any of these events. Did anybody hear me say the name of an attacker? That's exactly right. I didn't and I won't. We have to sign an agreement when we take this course to get certified to teach it that we will not mention the names of the attackers. They don't deserve the credit.